Welcome, and thanks for joining me today on Mortgage Manager Playbook, a podcast for sales leaders who want to improve their team's sales performance and originate more loans. I'm Pat Sherlock, your host. Today's topic is being memorable in your sales interactions. My expert is Dan Ervin. He is Mortgage Sales Director at First Merchants Bank. Previously, Dan founded his own fintech company that was sold to ABN AMRO and also has started his own mortgage company. I'm excited to have Dan today. Hi, Dan.
Thanks for having me on, Pat. And yeah, it's not like a lot of people major in college in mortgage banking. Actually, as many people as end up in our business, there probably should be a major offered at most universities. But I grew up in a real estate family. My father sold real estate forever and talked about it, wrote about it, managed companies, built companies, knocked on doors, all that. So that's where I grew up. And we ended up actually building a technology company focused on helping realtors be more effective in how they present themselves, win business, justify their commission, all that. Eventually, it crossed into the mortgage space. As interested as mortgage participants have always been in working with realtors and building those referral relationships. So the technology evolved from a realtor-focused piece of productivity to something that also helps mortgage people partner with realtors.
Mhm.
So the company we ultimately sold the business to, ABN AMRO, was a company that had a massive wholesale operation called InterFirst at the time, and
Mm.
they utilized the technology through their wholesale channel to provide to brokers, so the brokers could then utilize that technology going out and forging realtor relationships. So that's what got me in, and that evolved into me being more on the eventually on the mortgage side of the business and leading wholesale sales organizations and ultimately into the retail side with a couple banks. So that's where I am today. It's been a very interesting road and never more interesting than the present, that's for sure.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second, but why don't you share some of the challenges you have? You're a mortgage sales director. Talk about what are some of the challenges? Obviously, there's a lot of them, but a couple of the biggest ones for you this year.
Well, I think the challenge that is always with us, but has really been piqued by this market is recruiting and retention for that matter. I think that right now, when pipelines are down a little bit, especially versus where they were a couple of years ago, there are a lot of entities in our industry that are doing some pretty crazy things to attract talent. And with that, you got to constantly be making sure that your people understand why they are where they are and that where they are is the right place to be. And then also going out and taking advantage of a lot of the disruption and displacement to recruit folks to what we believe is a very, very stable home with tremendous opportunity, within products and ability to deliver. So retention, recruiting, more important than ever right now, hard in this
Hmm.
business. Also, I think that it's what makes this a tougher time is that it's a time that really requires originators to evolve, be willing to change in many respects. Yet at the same time, we have an aging workforce versus so many other industries. When you're in an industry where the average age of people in it is 50 plus, this on average are not people who are looking to make significant changes in their approach in their careers. So the combination of an aging workforce with the rapidly evolving marketplace make this a very challenging time, yet also a time that's filled with tremendous opportunity for those who can evolve, can change, and can be very nimble in how they go to market.
Well, I agree with you 100%. It's one of my favorite topics that we need to do, and this has been talked about for years about bringing newer people into our business. But that's another topic. I'll have to have you come back and talk about that because it's a topic by itself. So, talk about what issues, and maybe this does really kind of dovetail into it, should mortgage bankers be focused on, but they really are not from your perspective.
Maybe it's as much individual originators as it is the leaders of organizations, but I think things right now that we should really be having our eye on the ball on that may vary from company to company and individual to individual is what's going on with this NAR settlement, I think is going to be significant to the residential real estate industry and in turn the mortgage industry. I don't know that people are probably spending as much time as at least I believe they should be on reading everything they possibly can that's out there, as well as talking to their realtors, attending webinars and podcasts where they can learn just about what this whole thing is and what it's going to mean and how it's going to shake out. There's so many different perspectives and so much speculation. None of it's set in stone, but it will be at some point in the next several months. And we as a mortgage industry need to be able to appropriately participate educate, advise, and be a real strong support network to those that we certainly share a heck of a lot of our business interest with. So that would be one. Another big issue that is it's really beginning to come into play, and it's going to play out more so over the next several years, is this whole CRA modernization. I think the things that mortgage participants are going to need to be responsible for as it relates to participating in the communities we serve is going to grow, and
Mhm.
the coverage that we are going to be responsible for may grow exponentially. So at least being aware of that, reading about that, paying attention, it's going to be something that I think is going to hit a heck of a lot larger segment of our industry than it has historically. And then lastly, I would just say for those originators and companies who aren't keeping their eye on the ball on this, I think understanding and participating in as many of the DPA programs that are available and coming to market with the proportion of our business today coming to the plate needing help. First time home buyers being kind of at an all-time high as far as their percentage of buyers in the market and in need of help to finance these homes that are only continuing to grow in value at interest rates that are high and not likely to go down anytime soon. Having access and knowledge about how to help clients with DPAs, and for that matter, also some of the special purpose credit programs that are in the market and available and coming to market. This is knowledge that can come to bear that not only is going to help, but can be a pretty significant differentiator when outsourcing business and sourcing referral business.
Well, I agree with all that you're saying. And actually, you inspired me to I am going to start a series of interviews regarding the NAR settlement because I don't think there's a lot of discussion within the mortgage world, which they really do need to be. Well, that leads me to, you talked about recruiting and retention, but any other top priorities for you in this year that are really important for you?
It's This year is all about market share growth. Uh,
Hmm.
Again, with displacement, with uncertainty, yeah. How do we go out and get a larger piece of a smaller pie? I don't think that's probably that unique versus other
Hmm.
leaders in our industry today. The
Sure.
question becomes not do you want it, but what are you going to do to get it?
Hmm.
So I think outperforming on the recruiting front, keeping your best salespeople intact, and is going to be a part of that. But I also think getting out to market as leaders, actually being engaged and elbow to elbow on the front line as much as possible versus sitting in the conference room is as important as ever. One of the things that we've done, and we've already done about 10 of these this year, is we are doing sales events, in-market sales events across our footprint. We are inviting all the realtors we do business with, all the realtors that we don't do business with into rooms, and I'm doing seminars. One seminar is called What You Control More Than You Think. Another seminar is called How Far Are You Willing to Go? And that one's all about differentiation. So never a more important time than to get in front of your referral source. We also bring in financial planners, CPAs, attorneys to these events. They share
Hmm.
some of the same needs, and they're broad enough to cover all. But how are we through these events able to show our referral partners that the best referral relationships are built on us helping these folks be better in their lives, sell more, succeed more, and then share in that success, as opposed to justifying the referral relationship on my rates and my products and my client service, because that's the same thing everybody's got. It's got to be about how can we actually physically show you ways in which we're committed to you growing your business. So a lot of in-market work is one of the ways we think we can gain share, not just more people out trying to win mortgage business, but more people sending it to us because we justify it a little more uniquely, I think. Also, one of the things we've done for, and I know that you have broker owners on these calls and you have independents and you do have some banks. I am a bank, so just speak on the bank side for one piece. Federal home loan banks do play a pretty significant role in providing an additional investor that has played a significant role because there are fewer hits, practically no hits on second homes and cash out refis.
Hmm.
So whether it's a bank utilizing the Federal Home Loan Bank or independents utilizing all the different investors that are out there, really being sure of who's out there, what they can offer, and can those offerings expand your ability to go to market with some uniqueness.
Well, I agree with all that you're saying, and I think it really ties well into our main topic today about being memorable in your sales interactions. And so often, and you hit the nail on the head, I think a lot of loan officers and a lot of lenders think this is just a rate and a product game, and it's really obviously not for all the reasons you've already mentioned, the commodity side. So let's talk about how do you see being memorable? Why is it important? And what is it that would actually make someone memorable?
So I kind of live by the belief when it comes to being memorable. Also, some people will say it's creating differentiation. That kind of gets beaten to death by me as well. But or remarkable. Different words that I guess all kind of connotate the same thing, and that is, what do people think about you when it comes time to make a big decision? Or more importantly, do they think of you at all?
Hmm.
And so, what can we do? And what do I think about when it comes to this? And that is, what is it that I'm willing to do and able to do that some or most of my competitors are either unwilling or unable to do? And if I can find things and figure out things, and my salespeople can do the same, then that's where the advantage comes from. So, what are those things that most people are either unwilling or unable to do that we are willing and able to do? And if we are, then that's a lot of open space to run in. So I guess I would just say, those are in conversations with our referral sources. I just believe it should always start with finding out what's most important to them.
Hmm.
What are their challenges? What are their needs? So it's yes on the referral side, and it's also on the past client side and the current client side, the current prospective client. What is most important to these folks? Actually asking great questions, listening to those questions, being prepared with those questions, and then finding ways to address those needs, those concerns these folks have in a way that's going to set me apart. So I think it's having on the brain, what is it I'm willing and able to do, and what are the concerns, needs, problems that the people I'm trying to work with have, and how can I best solve those? It can't just be a script of, oh, you need a mortgage, or oh, you're working with a buyer. Well, let me
Right.
tell you what I can do. It can't just be that. That will win, and it will win sometimes, but will it be memorable? And it will be something that I can then take that other people will talk about me, not just when I'm in the room with them or on the
Right.
phone. So
Well,
a couple of the most simple things that
mhm.
I don't believe people do. I just don't. One is, like we said, Pat, if the average age of people in our business is, they look like me with a lot of gray hair, and what's left of it is gray. People in our business have done business for a long time. They have hundreds, they have thousands of transactions they've participated in over the course of their career. And my question to each originator is, okay, you've done 750 transactions over the last X number of years you've been here. My question is, have you, in the past 12 months, had a personal phone conversation and or face-to-face meeting with all of these 750 people?
Mhm.
And if you have not, then you're not doing your job and you're not being memorable. And how can they remember you? Yes, we all use these extraordinary CRA programs, and everyone I've ever done business with is getting some type of, set it and forget it, email, postcard in the mail. They are getting touches that occur through my CRM on a regular basis, and customer for life and all the wonderful things that happen. But none of those, not one of those, is as important as me actually picking up the phone and getting on with a past client to just ask them how they're doing in their life and what they're up to and what's important to them. Is there anything about the mortgage or real estate market that they're curious about or have a question about? That's a conversation that can and should be had with every single one of those 750 customers, no less than once a year. And I think in our heart of hearts, anyone listening to this call, by the way, including me, cannot say they've done that every year for every one of my past clients. It's not happening. And the most horrifying thing that does happen and has happened to me and has happened to me recently is making that call, getting that person on the phone or bumping into them at the grocery store and having the conversation only to find out that they've already transacted with someone else since the last time we transacted. That's a tragedy, Pat.
Well, it happens more than when mortgage lenders want to admit, and Dan, you're a soulmate because I agree with you 100%. But if you actually look at Black Knights or you look at Strathmore's studies, actually over 80% of the customers never go back to the original loan officer. And it ties together with this issue, A, of not making the wowing experience during the initial transaction, but also not having this other component where you really are acting as a financial advisor. So why do you think that loan officers don't buy into that? They feel that, well, it closed on time, that should be enough.
Well, because I think salespeople, and that's all I've done my whole life, salespeople live in the now,
Hmm.
which is great and critical. because we got to keep going. You got to leap out of bed and go, go, go. But I think it's oftentimes we view the things we are chasing today as lower hanging fruit when in
Mhm.
reality, these people who chose at some point, whether it was last month or 10 years ago, to put what was at that moment the single largest financial transaction of their life into our hands, those are the people who are being forgotten. Those are the people who did it once, so why wouldn't they do it again? And if
Mhm.
they did it once, why wouldn't they refer us, even if they don't have something today? Yet we chase other opportunities, other people, because that seems to be the lower hanging fruit when reality it's not. Also, it might be embarrassing to call someone that I haven't talked to in 3 years, knowing that I should have talked to them several times, and
Right.
I'm embarrassed about it. Or maybe I just default to the fact, well, they get an email, on to let them know that hey, spring's here, or
Mhm.
happy Thanksgiving, or happy birthday, and they're being communicated to, they're being touched, and when they need help, they'll let me know. And we kid ourselves into thinking that's going to happen, and it's just flat out, it is not. It
Right.
may happen. There's a higher likelihood it'll happen because at least I have something touching them, but there's no way it's going to happen at the level that it can and it should and it does when I'm actually having a conversation like the one you and I are, Pat.
So, Dan, think, and I agree with you 100%, and this is so prevalent. So it's radical to do it when it actually should be normal to do it. And so why do you think sales leaders don't require it to be done? In other words, and mandate that it happens, and that you rarely see. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess one thing is outside of, unless for the leaders on your call who are running consumer direct platforms, where
Hmm.
you're actually able to monitor and manage that on a moment to
Hmm.
moment basis. For those of us who lead sales teams that are largely self-sourcing their business and they're on the road, it'd be tough to monitor it.
Hmm.
But I just don't know that we're paying attention enough. I think we all are distracted. I think we have other priorities, but that's you ask, and my response to that is as leaders, setting a mandate like that into play, revisiting it regularly,
Hmm.
uh, is probably about one of the most impactful things we can do. You want to be memorable, then you got to remind people.
I think that's the best way to put it. So, talk about this whole issue of other thoughts that you have about being memorable. So, we know about the phone call, certainly on those that we have had as customers, but anything else that you see highly impactful?
Again, Pat, my ideas on this are not new. And my ideas, if people hear them at first, they probably say, are you freaking kidding me? I've been beaten to death with this and I've told my people a million times. So give me something that I don't have. Well, I'm just
Hmm.
going to tell you, this is something everyone has, but very few people ever do, or certainly do enough. And that is, how about this? How about every time you meet someone who is a prospective candidate to originate a mortgage with you or refer a mortgage to you, that before your head is allowed to hit the pillow that night, that you are sending a handwritten card in blue ink to them, letting them know how much you appreciate meeting them. You'd love nothing more than the opportunity to continue your dialogue going forward, and that you're always going to be there for them.
Well, that's another one that is certainly rarely done today for whatever reason, and really is such a fundamental. I agree with you completely with that. And now there's services that actually can write them for you.
Yes,
So, so there's
yes.
no reason for you not to do them. So, well, the time has flown by, and we only have a couple minutes left, Dan. What would you like to kind of have some takeaways for our listeners today?
I think at a time like this, it is assume nothing about the current people on your team. They are being beaten to death more than ever by recruiters, and recruiters are offering them things the likes of which they've never seen because I believe some companies are getting desperate. So
Hmm.
assume nothing, hold your team closely, aggressively recruit, play into this market with what you have that is very much powerfully able to be sold and presented and get in front of people, and make sure that your folks are doing the basic block and tackle, not being frozen by their nervousness and fear of what's going on in the market. I do think that's what's having a big impact on a lot of people's ability to be really, really productive, is that they're so nervous about what they're seeing that it multiplies their concerns by not acting. And things like this, things like saying, okay, where are all of your past clients? Let's make sure that you're calling every single one of them, and let's make this an initiative that we do and we do it together. Make it something a little more fun by doing it together, and do it yourself as a leader. How many of the leaders on this call have originated and continue to originate today, and how many of those can lead by example? And as leaders, I think that plays into the whole I'm never going to tell someone to do something. I'm never going to ask them to do something or set an expectation to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And never a more important time than to show our people that we are willing to do the difficult along with them. So whether it's making calls like this, whether it's sending letters like this, when I send letters, and I do send these letters all the time, I actually take a picture of the letter and then text that letter to my sales force to show them that this can be done. And if I can do it, believe me, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, they're all great takeaways. And I want to thank you, Dan, for sharing them with us today. And I want to thank our listeners. Certainly, if you want to catch up on our podcast or to subscribe, go to patsherlock.com. Thanks again, Dan.
Hey, my pleasure, Pat. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for all you're doing.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to Mortgage Manager Playbook. You can catch up on all our episodes by subscribing to receive each week a new show. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and team members. If you're looking to increase production, call me to discuss my prospecting sales training program, Ramping Up Realtor Referral Sources. Check out my website, www.patsherlock.com.